This is an LA Times Studios podcast.
Chris Goffard here at LA Times Studios. Thanks for joining us on Crimes of the Times. Today we continue our conversation with Stephen Kay, one of the prosecutors who put away cult leader Charles Manson and his homicidal disciples. I hope you enjoy the second half of the interview. Tell us what you think in the comments below. Welcome to Crimes of the Times. I'm Christopher Goffard. Today, part 2 of my conversation with Stephen Kay, the last living Manson prosecutor. At the end of last week's segment, we spoke about the fate of Ronald Hughes, an attorney who was representing one of Charles Manson's co-defendants at his 1970 trial and who ran afoul of Manson. Hughes was known as the hippie lawyer. He wore love beads to court and decorated his UCLA law degree in psychedelic colors. He was no one's idea of a skilled defense attorney, and Manson thought he could control him. But Hughes surprised everybody, maybe even himself, by putting up a real fight for his client, 19-year-old Leslie Van Houten. She was a former homecoming princess accused of participating in the stabbing deaths of Lino and Rosemary La Bianca. Hughes established that her prints were not found at the crime scene and fought for her acquittal. He made the biggest impression when he cross-examined the state's star witness, a Manson family member named Linda Kasabian. He grilled Kasabian about her drug use in relentless detail. He happened to be intimately familiar with the subject. Among his questions, quote, "Sometimes on grass or on hashish, don't you see things in a totally new light? Do you feel that you were controlled by Mr. Manson primarily by vibrations?" Hughes disappeared mid-trial in November 1970, and his body was badly decomposed when it was discovered. The autopsy listed his cause of death as undetermined. Whether Manson had him killed is one of the case's abiding mysteries. The breaking point, as I recall, was the 3 female co-defendants want to take the stand, right? And Hughes says, "Your Honor, I'm not going to be a party to this. I'm not going to be a party to pushing my client out the window." In other words, he's afraid that Van Houten will take the stand and maybe take the blame herself and try and exonerate Manson. He doesn't want her to do that.
And that's what happened in the penalty phase. The 3 women took the stand and took the blame. Hughes didn't want to be any part of it. No decent lawyer would want to be any part of that.
Okay, so let's talk about what happened to Ronald Hughes. He goes up to Sespe Hot Springs. He's got his transcripts. He catches a ride up there. There's a flash flood, and he vanishes. And when court resumes, he's nowhere to be seen.
Well, the last people who saw him, they said he was swimming in a natural pool up in Sespe Hot Springs after having taken LSD.
In the middle of a trial, he's doing this.
In the middle of a trial. Well, you know. So
you
were asking me an earlier question about Bruce Davis and the fact that he was out at the time.
He's at large when Ronald Hughes disappears.
Yes, and there was an arrest warrant out for him for the murders of Gary Hinman and Donald Shorty Shea. And so Hughes, last time we saw him was on a Friday. He didn't show up on Monday, and Tuesday, Davis surrendered himself. So I'm kind of on the fence. I think, one, when Hughes' body was found, it was found in a watercourse down from where he was swimming at Sespe Hot Springs, but it was so badly decomposed that they never were able to tell a cause of death. So part of me is thinking that it was a natural death, and the other part, well, Bruce Davis.
And he's a guy who would be capable of it. Yes,
he would, because he killed for Charlie before. I mean, when Manson with his sword cut Gary Hinman's ear in two and gave a big slash mark across his face from the ear down to his mouth. Davis was holding a gun on him in Hinman's kitchen and fired a bullet before to show Hinman that they meant business.
So Ronald Hughes is last seen in a pool, Sespe Hot Springs. He's on LSD and is never seen again.
Right.
What effect does this have on the case?
Well, we were in recess for a couple of weeks, and when Hughes finally didn't show up, Judge Older appointed Maxwell Keith to take Hughes' place. And Maxwell Keith was a very accomplished criminal defense lawyer in Los Angeles. And he was a real smart guy. And so he started out his argument saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, you should find Linda Van Houten not guilty of these murders." And I knew he knew that it was Leslie Van Houten, not Linda Van Houten, but he wanted it on the record that he called his client by her wrong name. And
he's building his own ineffective assistance of counsel.
And the case against Van Houten was reversed on appeal because the appellate court said that it was unfair to put a new attorney in just to give the argument when that attorney hadn't seen the witnesses testify and cross-examine them.
Sandra Good at one point said that Ronald Hughes was murdered by the Manson family, and he was the first of the retaliation killings.
Yes.
Do you give any weight to her words?
Yeah, she, for the female, she was probably Manson's closest confidant.
Now, did you know Sandra Good before any of this happened?
I did.
How did that come about?
Well, Sandra Good's godmother was my mother's best friend. And Sandra Good came from a wealthy family in San Diego. Her father was a big insurance broker. And one day, Sandy and her mother were coming up to L.A. because they were going to fly to Hawaii out of LAX. And so the godmother said, "Oh, this would be a great idea, getting Steve and Sandy Good together to meet." And so we had a blind date with our mothers at the Pancake House in Burbank.
With your mothers there?
With our mothers there, yes. Our mothers were there. I was 15. She was 14. 10 minutes into the lunch, I figured out that she was a little stuck-up snob, and I didn't want to have anything to do with her. And I excused myself, and I went over to a buddy's house and went swimming. So we had a 10-minute blind date at the Pancake House with our mothers.
What a strange connection.
And she recognized me in the elevator during the trial. She recognized who I was because, I mean, I met her when I was 15. I was 27 at the trial, so maybe I didn't change that much. But then one night after court, she and Squeaky snuck up behind me on my way to the parking lot to get my car, and they said they were going to do to my house what was done at the Tate house. And, you know, okay, I knew what was done at the Tate house. I had to tell my wife, and she was not very thrilled with that.
Well, I'm very curious about that. Like, how did you cope with the menace you must have felt? The Manson family, God knows how many people they've killed. How did you deal with the threat to your safety and your family's safety? That must have long outlasted the trials.
Well, I went back in my mind to the President Kennedy's assassination. And I thought, you know, if anybody can assassinate a president of the United States, they can kill anybody. So I am just not going to dwell on it. I take precautions. I'm always aware of my circumstances, who's around. I never park next to a van in a parking lot because I don't know who's inside the van. But I just don't dwell on it. Now, when I was away on military duty, I would come back and my wife would have big circles under her eyes and everything. And I guess every time the wind blew a branch of a tree outside, she was thinking that, somebody was going to come in.
You say he threatened to kill you 4 times?
3 times.
3 times.
He threatened to kill me.
This is on top of what Squeaky and Sandy did.
Yes. He threatened to kill me one time during the first trial. He said he was going to bring murder and bloodshed down on my head. The second time, he was in trial for the Hinman and Shea murders. I wasn't prosecuting that case. Anthony Manzella was, who was my best friend, and I went to visit him in court, and Manson saw me, and he looked at me and he said, "I thought we got rid of you." And the third time was at one of the parole hearings at Vacaville, and he told me that he was going to have me murdered on my way to the car, my car, after the hearing.
There are so many things in life that we never get around to. Taking up that hobby, cleaning out the garage, little things that don't really make a huge difference in our lives. Yet there's one thing that most of us have probably been neglecting that can have a huge impact on our family's future. It's life insurance, and with SelectQuote, getting covered with the right policy for you is easier and more affordable than you may think. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. Head to SelectQuote.com and a licensed insurance agent will call you right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. Get the right life insurance for you for less at SelectQuote.com/crimesofthetimes. Go to SelectQuote.com/crimesofthetimes today to get started. That's SelectQuote.com/crimesofthetimes.
Have you ever woken up with a funky symptom and immediately Googled it to see what's wrong? We've all gone down that rabbit hole, but it's time to get the help and care you really need with ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality, in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment. We're talking about booking in-network appointments with more than 100,000 doctors across every specialty. Once you find the right doctor, you can see their actual appointment openings, choose a time slot that works for you, and click to instantly book a visit. I just used ZocDoc the other week and I got an appointment the same day. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/crimesofthetimes and find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/crimesofthetimes. ZocDoc.com/crimesofthetimes.
Well, I'd love to know about the parole hearings. Tell me about the parole hearings that you began going to and went to for years and years. You went to dozens of them.
I went to 60 parole hearings for the 5 Tate-La Bianca murder defendants.
60.
Yes. I went up until I retired. Now, originally, Manson and Van Houten, Krenwinkel and Adkins and Watson all had the death penalty. But in 1972, the California Supreme Court held the death penalty unconstitutional, cruel, and unusual punishment. So everybody on death row, there were 115, got their sentences commuted from death to life. And in those days, a life sentence in prison meant you were eligible for parole in 7 years. The first parole hearing I went to was Patricia Krenwinkel's July 18th, 1978. and she was so mad that I was there. She called me the F word. What the F are you doing here? And I said, well, I'm here because I want to make sure that you don't get paroled because I know what you're capable of.
Now, there's a story that comes to mind about you at these parole hearings where Manson is spending a lot of time in his cell he's doing crafts involving scorpions. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Could you tell me that story?
Oh, he was amazing with his what he would do in his cell. One time they found in his shoe that he had razor blades concealed in the heel of his shoe, and he had a scorpion, and he said at the hearing, he said that if he got paroled, he wanted to either be paroled to space or he wanted to be paroled to Death Valley so that he could live with his friends, the spiders and the snakes and the scorpions. And he was serious. That's where he wanted to be, although I don't think he really realistically thought he was going to be paroled.
Well, there's this quote that I wanted to read to you that, let's see here. Oh, yeah. 1986 parole. He's making scorpions from sock threads of his socks. And you ask him why he does this. And his response is, from the world of darkness, I did loose demons and devils, in the power of scorpions to torment. Oh. Right? Does that ring a bell, or is this too?
Yeah, that vaguely rings a bell. I mean, he said so many things. I loved it in the parole hearings. One of the parole hearings, he came in and he was wearing a shirt with a skull and crossbones on it, and then of course, at the trial, he was Exhibit A for the prosecution. And so he came into court one day and he had carved an X on his forehead. It was still bleeding. And he said he was Xing himself out of society.
And he lunged at the judge at one point with a pencil, right?
Oh, yeah. He tried to stab the judge. And Judge Older told me later that he kept a sap concealed under his bench, and he said that if Manson had got any closer, he would have whapped him with the sap.
In terms of the parole hearings, what were those like in terms of the people who you ran into there? I remember being told that there was a cadre of devil worshippers who followed Manson around and who held the Sharon Tate murder date sacred.
Yeah.
Is this true?
Yes. One of the parole hearings at San Quentin, there were about 40 to 50 men dressed in black with silver, and they were outside the prison chanting, "Steve K, go back to L.A., Steve K, go back to L.A." Then later I learned that Manson had become the focal point of satanic worshipers in the United States, that they viewed him as the devil incarnate. Remember, Manson said that at first he came as Jesus Christ and was crucified, so that he came back as the devil. And Watson, when he came into the Tate house, climbing through a dining room window, Frykowski was asleep on the sofa, and Watson woke him up and said, I'm the devil here to do the devil's work.
Hi, I'm Jonathan, one of the producers for Crimes of the Times. Before I became a dad, I thought I knew what tired felt like. But let me tell you, sleep deprivation hits differently when you're juggling a newborn and a full-time job. Proper sleep is the foundation of whole body health. It increases focus, boosts energy, and improves your mood. That's why we're so excited to talk about Beam's Dream Powder, a science-backed, healthy hot cocoa for sleep. I've tried other sleep aids, but Dream is different. It's delicious. my go-to is the cinnamon cocoa, and totally guilt-free with only 15 calories and 0 grams of sugar. Other sleep aids can cause next-day grogginess, but Dream contains a powerful, all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. I just mix Dream with hot water and enjoy before bed. It's that easy. If you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder, get up to 40% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/crimes and use code CRIMES at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/crimes and use code CRIMES for up to 40% off.
Hi, my name is Mary, and I'm one of the producers of the show. I want to take a quick second to tell you about Quince. With Quince, I get high-end, versatile pieces at prices I can afford. Quince has all the must-haves like Mongolian cashmere crewneck sweaters from $50, iconic 100% leather jackets, and versatile flow-knit activewear. By partnering directly with top factories, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices, along with premium fabrics and finishes. I own the Mongolian cashmere cardigan, and it's one of the softest items in my closet. I swear I've worn this like twice a week since getting it. Indulge in affordable luxury. Go to quince.com/crimesofthetime for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/crimesofthetime to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/crimesofthetime.
It's sort of very similar as to being a foster parent. You go in it not for the length of time, but to know that even 2 months or 10 years can still create a big impact in a child's life. So CASA is a nonprofit organization that stands for Court-Appointed Special Advocate, and they specialize in making sure that the child's needs are met, whether it's medical, health, educational, and ensuring that the child is receiving the most stability they can.
I'm talking to former Manson prosecutor Stephen Kay. In this segment, he talks about Dennis Wilson, one of the founding members of the Beach Boys, and his connection to the Manson family. In 1968, a year before the infamous murders, Wilson picked up some of Manson's young female disciples while they were hitchhiking, and they said they wanted to introduce the musician to their guru, Charlie. In no time, Manson and his followers moved into the musician's Sunset Boulevard home, which became the scene of acid-fueled orgies. The Beach Boys even recorded one of Manson's songs. It's a reminder that Manson was an aspiring musician who could never land the record deal he was seeking, which seems to have inflamed his hatreds. Wilson would say he knew why Manson did what he did, and, quote, "Someday I'll tell the world," but the musician drowned in 1983. One thing I've learned doing this series, Crimes of the Times, is that people understand a lot of these famous cases only in the barest outlines, and there are a lot of misconceptions. People misremember things. People, their impressions are formed by movies. But it's fascinating to talk to somebody who was actually there and knew a lot of these people. Are there any burning mysteries involving the Manson case that persist for you?
I think if there's anybody that I would want to know more from, it would be from Dennis Wilson.
What do you think he might be able to tell us? What light do you think he could shed on it that we don't have?
I think that he was really close to Manson, and Manson's desire to become a rock star. I mean, Dennis Wilson set him up with Terry Melcher.
Were you not able to subpoena Dennis Wilson, or?
They didn't want to have anything to do with this trial.
Is there something in particular that you think he would know that we don't know now?
I think he knew Manson so well, probably better than anyone. And I would have loved to have talked to him about what Manson was like when they were living together, and that's where Manson met Tex Watson. Tex Watson was living with Dennis Wilson. Dennis Wilson picked Watson up hitchhiking.
Let me get back to the Helter Skelter motive for just a minute.
Okay.
I recall detectives finding some very strange stuff in the Manson compound involving scuba gear and golden rope, right? Or gold colored rope. What's the significance of that?
Okay, so Manson told his followers, and it's interesting about the followers, because some people think, it sounds like there were like 100 people in the family. Well, there were actually 30 people, and the way we know it is because Manson applied for a Chevron credit card, and he listed his 30 dependents. So we had a list of his family members, but he told his followers they would be living in the bottomless pit, which is written about in Revelations 9 of the Bible. And the entrance to the bottomless pit was through an underground river in Death Valley. And so we found a sporting goods store in Santa Monica that had rented, I think, Bruce Davis, the scuba equipment. And also Manson said that to get into the bottomless pit, you had to be lowered with golden rope. And we found that he had bought golden rope. Which Watson took into the Tate residence and hung Sharon Tate from a beam going across the ceiling. Now, it wasn't real gold rope; it was gold-colored rope.
So you found the receipt for the scuba gear, but not the scuba gear.
No.
Okay.
And
so this is evidence of just how seriously they took the Helter Skelter idea.
Oh, yes. And Manson told his followers that while in the bottomless pit, that they would go in miniaturized form, and they would grow to 144,000, like the 12 tribes of Israel.
So he's got these visions of being sort of a post-apocalyptic Messiah, right? And he's trying to provoke the war that brings that about.
And when they were on LSD and listening to the White Album, one of the things he would do is he would recreate the crucifixion. He would tell them that the first time he came to earth, he came as Jesus Christ, and he got crucified. So this time he was coming as the devil. He would stretch his arms out and say how it felt when they were driving the nails in his hands and into his feet. And Mary Bruner would play the role of Mary Magdalene and would be at his feet crying. We know that many of his followers believed that he was Jesus.
So which of the witnesses are you getting this stuff from? Do you remember who in particular is describing this?
Leslie Van Houten made a tape recording with her attorney Marvin Part, her first attorney, and it was like a 2-hour interview where she goes into all of this about the bottomless pit and the 144,000. Paul Watkins was a good confidant of Manson, and he related all this stuff to Paul.
So there are a lot of witnesses who are saying basically the same thing about his obsession with this theory.
Right.
How many unsolved murders do you think might be laid at the feet of the Manson family? I mean, we know about 9. We know Tate-La Bianca, Gary Hinman,
and Shorty
Shea, right? That's 9.
We prosecuted all the ones that we could prove. Manson, at one time when he was in custody, told one of his cellmates that they had killed like 34 people. So I don't know. All I can say is the 9 murders we prosecuted him for, those were the ones that we could prove. Nothing else.
But it wouldn't surprise you if there were many more.
Oh, no.
Wasn't a man murdered in London during the time Bruce Davis was there? His throat was slashed.
Yes. Sandy Good's husband. Sandy Good's husband was there, and Manson was upset that Sandy Good had gotten married. And
I didn't like the guy.
Didn't like the guy, and didn't like the fact that Blue, his star girl, got married. The authorities ruled that it was a suicide, but there was writing on the mirror, which the authorities didn't preserve. He had his throat slashed, his wrist slashed, and he was up against the front door like he was of his hotel room, like he was trying to get out. A police officer had to force in the door to get into the room, and it was a first floor room, so somebody could have gotten in from the outside, but they never checked for fingerprints or anything. And
so that seems like a plausible candidate for another murder. And then there was the Russian roulette incident,
right, where Bruce Davis was present.
He was there. Right?
Yeah.
Every day that passes, though, the likelihood of any other crimes being provably the Manson family diminishes.
Oh, yeah, I think long past.
Stephen K., thank you for your time.
You're more than welcome.
From LA Times Studios, this is Crimes of the Times. To read more about these cases, check out Crimes of the Times at latimes.com. We also have a link to our video episodes in the show notes. This episode was written and reported by me, your host, Christopher Goffard. Our senior producers are Mary Knopf and Jonathan Shiflett. Executive editor is Deborah Anderlew. Associate producer is Jordan Patterson. Video editing by Cooper Kenward. Production services provided by JTB Studios. Our camera technicians and operators are Jeff Amlott, Julia McCabe, and Jason Newbert, with additional production support from Andrew Gombert, Patrick Stewart, and Anne-Marie Hauser. Denise Callahan is our studio manager. Ben Church is our production manager. Special thanks to LA Times Studios President Anna Magzanian, President and Chief Operating Officer of the Los Angeles Times, Chris Argenteri, and Executive Editor of the Los Angeles Times, Terry Tang. Crimes of the Times is executive produced and co-created by Darius Derrickson and me, Christopher Goffard.